valid that is, and basically how can non-professionals understand and be confident in the numbers that are there. Does
that makes sense to me? Yeah. So it's a confidence factor we're looking for, and I think ultimately we need to if we can get it from you, to take this analysis that you now have from the poll companies and vet that, but also break that down into two different columns. One, the project excuse me, without the housing component, and the other project with the housing component, so that we can run down those two columns and say this is how they compare back and forth, and as Alan points out, in language that we can communicate to a town meeting where voters are not particularly involved in this kind of data and information, make it understandable to them. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's something we do in our reports. We make it, we write these reports so that they are understandable by a wide group of people. You know, fiscal impacts and even economic impacts studies are not all science. It's not an accounting process, although there is a lot of number crunching. And at some point, there's also a little bit of art, which relies upon the author's knowledge of how development occurs, knowledge of how properties are valued, and the knowledge of how markets operate. And for the peer review of the report, that's relatively straightforward. The only question I would have is, I did not see in the material that were forwarded to us any kind of a market study as to absorption. Because one of the key questions you might want to ask is, when will this project hit the tax base? And one of the questions between the 55 and older housing versus the additional office space, the 250,000 square feet of office space, is that office right now in a suburban location is probably going quite slowly. It's very difficult to finance without having a tenant in hand, and so that phase of it might be several years away. So that might be something we want to explore as well, or at least comment on, and if we can get some information on that back from the developer, that would be very useful in terms of what their expectations are on the ability to fill this space up.
That clearly has an impact on the fiscal impact and the economic development opportunities there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just from our experience, I think the housing will fill up, will be built quite quickly. Actually, it might be the first thing out of the ground that and filled up, because that's very financeable today in today's marketplace, whereas the office is much more difficult. Now, I know Mr. Opoli may have the wherewithal and the means to do this out of his own cash, but in general, most real estate is done on a financing basis,
yes,
on a leverage basis, and so that's a piece of it as well. It would be interesting to see too, maybe talk to them about, and I do know the woman who runs this real estate arm, to find out what kind of commitments they have from different tenants.
That's something that you would do as a normal part of this analysis.
Yeah, if they will talk to us,
yeah.
The more information we have from the horse's mouth, the better off we're going to be.